All right, let's talk about a question that gets everyone tangled up in English, even people who've been speaking it for years. You know that moment? You're about to ask something and you just freeze. Should I use are or is it do? Well, after this, you're never going to have to guess again.
So let's get right to it. Do you happy or are you happy? One of these sounds perfectly natural, and the other, well, it's a super common mistake. We're about to break down the simple, powerful rule that separates them so you can ask questions with total confidence.
You know, sometimes it feels like you need a giant, complicated rulebook just to ask a simple question in English, right? Well, here's some good news. You can toss that imaginary rulebook out. The secret isn't about memorizing a million little things. It's about understanding that there are really just two main paths to choose from.
I want you to imagine you're standing at a fork in the road. It's that simple. Path 1, over on the left, that's your being path. You take this road when you want to describe something, like who you are, how you're feeling, or where you are. The only words you need for this path are am, is, and are. Now, path 2, on the right, that's the doing path. This is for all the actions, running, thinking, working, you name it. And for this one, you've got two little helper words, do and does.
Okay, you ready? Let's take a walk down path 1 together. This is all about describing states and conditions using that classic verb to be. First up, the absolute basics. You've probably seen this 100 times, but it's so important. I always, and I mean always, gets am. For he, she, or it, that whole third-person crew, it's always is. And for everybody else, you, we, and they, we use are. That's it. Super straightforward.
So, when do you actually go down this path? Well, think about it. It's for when you're talking about who someone is, their job, their nationality. She is a doctor. He is from Brazil. Makes sense, right? Or when you're describing how someone is, their feelings or qualities. I am happy. They are tired. And finally, you use it for where something is, or even when something's happening. The book is on the table. The meeting is at 2 p.m. See? None of those are actions. They're all just states of being.
Let's take this example. She is a doctor. We're not talking about something she's actively doing. We're describing her identity. It's who she is. It's a state of being. And that's a classic reason to use is.
Okay, so that was path 1. Pretty clear, I hope. Now, let's switch gears and check out path 2. This one is for pretty much every other verb you can think of. All those great action words like run, eat, study, and play. The list is endless.
Now here's the deal. When you want to ask a question or make a negative sentence with these action verbs, you need a little help. That's where our helper verbs come in. For I, you, we, and they, your go-to helper is do. And for he, she, and it, that helper is does.
So, when do these helpers actually show up to the party? Well, you use them when you ask about habits like, do you drink coffee? Or for things that happen over and over again. Does he watch TV every night? You even use them for general truths, like the earth does revolve around the sun. All of these are about actions and routines. Now, look at this. She teaches English. Sure, this is related to her job, kind of like being a doctor. But notice the big difference. The sentence focuses on the action of teaching, and that focus is what puts us squarely on path 2.
Okay, this is where it gets really interesting. Let's put these two paths right next to each other and see how they work. Because the way you build positive statements, negatives, and especially questions is completely different depending on which road you take.
So, in simple positive sentences, path 1 uses is or are to describe the state. She is a teacher. They are happy. Easy. But look over at path 2. The action verb is the star of the show. She teaches. They play. And yep, you see that little S on teaches? That's because our subject is she.
What if you want to say no? This is where the paths really split. For states of being on path 1, it's a piece of cake. You just add not right after the verb. She is not a teacher. Done. But for actions, you have to bring in that helper verb. She does not teach English. You just can't say she teaches not. It doesn't work that way. And now for the main event. Questions. This is where the difference is crystal clear. For path 1, the to be verb just hops to the front of the line. Is she a teacher? But for path 2, you call in your helper, do or does, and put it right at the beginning. Does she teach English? And that right there, that simple move, is the key to this whole puzzle.
All right, you've totally nailed the simple yes or no questions. So let's level up. It's time to build more complex, more interesting questions using words like what, where, when, and why.
You've probably seen exercises like this, right? Where you're given a jumble of words and your job is to turn them into a real question. Well, guess what? The rules we just went over are your secret toolkit for getting this right every single time. For action verbs, the formula is always the same. It's like a recipe. First, you start with your question word. Then comes your helper, do or does. After that, the subject. And finally, the main verb, but, and this is super important, in its simple base form. No S's on the end. In this example, this just perfectly illustrates the entire idea. Where do you live is a question about the action of living somewhere, a general habit. But where are you? That's a question about your current state, your location right now. One action, one state. Two different paths, two very different questions. So, what does this all boil down to? How do you make sure you choose the right path every single time without even thinking about it? Well, it all comes down to one quick mental check. Here it is. This is the only question you ever need to ask yourself. Before you speak, before you write, just pause for a split second and ask, am I describing a state or an action? If it's a state, a feeling, a profession, a location, boom, you use am, is, or are. If it's an action, a habit, an activity, you grab your helper, do or does. That's it. That is the entire secret. And just like that, the puzzle is solved. The next time you go to ask a question and you feel that little moment of hesitation, just ask yourself, state of being or action. You will know exactly which path to take. So what are you waiting for? Go out there and ask some great questions. And hey, if you have other English puzzles you want us to tackle, let us know.